Folk in those colonies lived isolated lives. That was not the case in South Carolina. Some plantation owners in South Carolina visited their plantations only occasionally. They spent their time in Charleston, where they lived in big houses and went to fancy parties. The Huguenots mixed and married the English. The taste and ideas helped create the most elegant society in the colonies. Those who were wealthier thought life in Charleston finer than in any place on earth. But the majority of Charlestonians were not wealthy. The majority of South Carolinians were not free. They were Africans, and they worked as field hands, craftspeople, and servants. But they had their own ideas and traditions, and they brought those songs, stories, and habits to their new home. After a while, some of those African ideas became mixed with the ideas they found in America. Brer Rabbit started as an African, became American. In South Carolina, African American became American. In South Carolina, African Americans developed their own language, Gullah. Some people in South Carolina speak Gullah today. They talk quickly without a southern accent. Gullah combines words from English, French, and a number of African languages. You might have heard some Gullah words such as goober, peanut, jumbo, soup with okra, juke as in jukebox, and budo, witchcraft. Here's a sentence in Gullah. Shashur tall pasuma. Means sister is taller than you. Okay. Final chapter. North Carolina, Descenders, and Pirates. I've read a lot. North Carolina was different. It had tough land to tame, so its settlers were apt to be free-spirited small farmers. Many were outcasts and religious dissenters from aristocratic Virginia. In Virginia, the rich landholders were in control, and they were Anglicans. People who wanted to join the new religion sects, the Baptists and the Methodists, were persecuted in Virginia. Some moved south to North Carolina. North Carolina may have been the most democratic of all the colonies. Generally, North Carolinians mind their own business and left their neighbors alone, which may have been why pirates made the North Carolina coast a base for their adventuring. Although some said it was because the pirates paid the North Carolina government to leave them alone. That could be true because it was finally a force from Virginia that got Blackbeard, the most famous and ferocious of the pirates. His real name was Edward Teach. He braided his great black beard into pigtail, worn ribbons into them, and then hung smoking pieces of rope in his hat, and that the pigtails looked like holding snakes. And the burning rope gave his face a glowing, eerie looked enough to scare anyone, and did scare a lot of sailors. And Bonnie scared them too. She was a tough pirate who sailed the Caribbean and Carolina's coast, and had no trouble terrorizing seamen. In 1677, some North Carolinians rebelled against England. They didn't like England's navigation acts, which forced them to pay taxes to England on goods sold to other colonies. If a North Carolinian tobacco grower sold some of his tobacco to a merchant in Boston, he was supposed to pay a tax to England. Doesn't make any sense. The colonists didn't think so. Some North Carolinians refused to pay. They even set up their own government and tried to get free from England. They almost got away for it. They put British officials in jail, elected a legislator, and chose their leader, John Culpeper, as governor. For 2 years, they exercised all the powers and duties of government, but the British finally got angry. They tried Culpeper for treason. He was convinced but not punished, maybe because he was so popular. 100 years later, 1776, that was 1676, people in all the colonies were angry about English taxes. The colonists will unite, and as Pope had united the Pueblo Indians, and well, you would see what happened. So I'm done. Finally, this long video. Bye-bye.